How is everyone? Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Good morning, VMAC. How are you doing? Good to see you. Your bell is on. I'm going to try to see if I can pull me up live on my phone so I can see the chat in real time. I think yesterday it was kind of delayed. Live on my phone. Okay. Good deal. Here we go. That's what I needed to see. Okay. Can you hear me well? Let me know if I am buffering today. I got one of those Wi-Fi extenders, so I'm hoping that will settle the issues of, the buffering that I was having yesterday, because when I was watching the replay, I could definitely see I was doing a lot of buffering. Good morning, Mama Jones. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome to class this morning. Day number 4, class number 4. This morning we are, this is the wrong thing on here. It's actually, we're talking about debating, not compromise. So let me see if I can fix that. I don't know. Oh, here it is. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Let me edit that. Okay, debating. I thought I typed in the right thing yesterday, but I guess I did not. Let me save that. See if that fixed it. Show. Okay, there we go. There we go. Good morning to everyone watching. Glad to see you all this morning. Hello, Harrison. How are you? On your way to work? Good deal. Thank God to be working. It's a blessing. All right, this morning we're going to be talking about debating when we're debating in our relationships. When it comes to debating, typically there are no rules, right? People say what they want to say. Emotions are flying everywhere. People are over talking one another, knowing, and most of the time the words we use cut deep. So debating can be very stressful and harmful to a relationship. So we're going to talk about, since there are no rules, how can we go about beginning to create some rules around debating if we want to ensure to get our point across and to be heard and to be understood, and to try to get to some level of understanding or resolution, if we can come to some level of resolution or compromise. Maybe sometimes we'll be required to compromise when it comes to debate. Whatever it is, we want to get to that point so that the debates don't turn into, huge arguments where, it becomes a knockdown, drag out. Hold on, let me change my view here. Okay. So this morning I want to talk about those common issues that we debate over when it comes to our relationships, and go over some rules that we can incorporate in our communication around debating so that we don't have to, like I say, it doesn't have to go left so quickly. All right. So the first issue that I want to talk about is bringing up the past, right? That's the most common, one of the most common things that happens when we are debating. We end up bringing up the past, and that causes all kinds of problems. We want to, bring up old relationships. We want to bring up, old fights, debates, issues that we've had. We want to bring up all sorts of things that come up in debates that are just inappropriate and not fair. And so we really have to work to try to keep the argument current. And a lot of times when we're not fighting over, debating over the things that happen. We're debating over how we perceived it to have happened, right? So one person remembers the issue being this and another person remembers the issue being that. So then we're fighting over whose version is the most accurate. Okay. Or we may be debating over whether an issue even happened or occurred at all. So, those are the things that we debate about when it comes to relationships. So we want to keep the argument or the issues that we're talking about current. Stick to what you're talking about. It's tempting to go back and pull up old things, pull up old arguments, old issues of the past. The past needs to stay in the past. Discussing and having debates over an issue, we need to keep it current. So in Micah, and one of the reasons that we debate over the past is because we don't let go. We never forget. We forgive and we never forget. And it's hard to forget. It's hard to sometimes not go back and pull up past issues because it's so tempting, because something that the person is doing is triggering our memory of something that they did before, something they used to do. Good morning, Vern's Junk Closet. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome in. So, and the other thing we want to do when we are debating is leave out those "you always" and "you never" statements, right? You're always doing this. You never do that. And the first thing the person does is go back to remind you when they did do it, or when they have done the thing that we said that they never do. And so that's ineffective. Good morning, 12 L's. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here in class. This morning we're talking about debating. And we're going to go over several different things that we fight about, because people do things that trigger stuff in our minds that causes us to remember, what they did before, and want to remind them, to let them know, like, hey, this is a pattern for you. This is a habit for you. And we think that will help. But typically reminding people of, what they used to do, or, does not help. It makes them feel worse. And so I have to work to keep the argument current and, move past those things. And these are the things that they truly have left in the past. It's like, sometimes we'll bring up stuff. I remember when you used to do this, and it'll be stuff that'll be really things that they have gotten over or moved past. And so to bring it back up is like to put it back in their face and say that you've not come as far as you think you have with this. And we're trying to move people forward, help people stay in the space of moving forward when they've made a decision and made commitments in their lives to not do it again. So when we bring it back up in their face, it's like saying, we've never forgiven you for this. We've never forgotten about this. I still feel like you're capable of doing this again. And this thing that you're doing right now is reminding me of that. And so that's why it's so tempting for us to just dive back into the past and pick up something that they did and throw it right in their face. All right, so we want to make sure that we keep it current. In Micah, the book of Micah in the Bible, chapter 7, verse 19, the Lord talks about that he will again have compassion on us. And notice it says again, he will again have compassion on us, because we do things repeatedly. We make mistakes repeatedly. We all do. And yet every time we go to the Lord, he allows us to be in a place of forgiveness, and he accepts and he forgets that forgiveness and he moves on. And so if the Lord can do that, why can't we? Why is it so hard for us to be able to do it? And I know it's difficult. I struggle with it myself. I'm not asking you all to do anything that I don't struggle with myself, because it's so tempting. It says he will tread our iniquities underfoot and cast all sins into the depths of the sea. Now, some people have turned that into the sea of forgetfulness, but if you've ever been out in the sea or the ocean, you realize how vast it is. And if anything ever, is cast out, is very hard and difficult to. So that's how far away the things that people do in their past should be from us, that we should throw it so far away that it would be difficult for us to go back and get it. And that's ideally, the mentality and the attitude that he wants us to have when we have forgiven people. So we have to move past the things, the issues of our past, and keep the issues current when we're debating over something. All right. So one of the next ones that we do, and this is a huge one, is overtalk each other. Okay. When we're debating, over talking each other, when we overtalk each other, no one is listening. Okay. Good morning, Kay Renee. How are you doing this morning? Welcome in. Welcome to class. We're talking about debating this morning, and there will be no debates in class this morning. But so one of the like I said, the second thing that we do is we overtalk each other. And when we overtalk each other, no one's listening because we're too busy wanting to be heard. We're too busy wanting to get our point across. And so therefore we're not listening, and we're constantly in our mind running through what it is that we need to say, what it is we're wanting to get them to understand. And so we don't stop to hear them fully out. And so one of the things that we need to do when we're not hearing people fully out, then we're not getting the full story of the information. So when we're in a position where we're trying to come to some sort of compromise or work through an issue or come to some resolution, it's hard to do that because we're not listening. So we're not getting the full story of what's going on. So we have to not overtalk each other. So one of the things that we do one of the things that my husband and I do when we know that we're treading on temperate, when we're treading on issues that could turn into a fire, we will make sure that we allow the other person time to talk, because we know that both of us may be feeling, heated or passionate what it is we're discussing. So, it allows me to say what I need to say, finish as much as it may, if it takes 10 minutes, if it takes 20 minutes for me to say it all. He'll say, okay, have you said everything? Have you said everything that you wanted to say? And then I do the same. I give him the opportunity to say what he needs to say. And I sit and listen, and we be quiet. And it can be very, difficult, because sometimes they say things that makes you want to be reactive. They'll say something that is like, no, that's not true, or no, that's not what it is. And we want to be reactive, but we can't. We just have to sit and listen and try to put ourselves in their shoes. And that's the great thing about being quiet, is that it does give you the opportunity to put yourself in their shoes. You're seeing it from their perspective, because we have one way of seeing the issue, but they have another way of seeing the issue. And we have to acknowledge that their view of the issue is valid. We have to validate what they're feeling, whether we agree with it or not. We don't always agree with how people are feeling. And so we want to, snap back and overtalk them and say, no, this is what it is. No, you're not right about that. Or, this is not the case. And we can't do that. We have people feel the way they feel. And then we go back and forth. I respond to what he says. He responds to what I say. But again, at both times we're quiet. We listen to each other fully out. And then we go back and say what we need to say. And sometimes it feels like, you want to like take notes, like, okay, let me talk back to that one. Let me think, make sure I address this thing he just said. But, we don't take notes. I'm just kidding. But it can be hard, because if they're talking for a long period of time sometimes, but they're getting everything out. But that's how you get to feel heard. When the other person is quiet, you give them opportunity they need to say, and that way Everyone feels heard. Everyone has the opportunity to express. And then we talk about, okay, well, what can we do about this now? What are we willing to compromise on? What thoughts about any resolutions do we have? Maybe we can do this. I was thinking about we could possibly take this approach or this. I'm willing to commit to doing this. And I'd like to know what you're willing to commit to help solve this issue or come to some level of compromise with it. And that's how we go about it. Prayerfully, you have someone who's willing to do that with you. It can be difficult if you don't. Someone who just wants to be the loud, snappy, hollering, but what I find is that if one person stays calm, if one person doesn't raise their voice and keeps a level head, then the other one typically will calm down. Eventually they'll calm down because they realize you're not going there with them. You're not gonna jump in the boat with them and let things get rocky. And so if you stay in your boat, they'll eventually calm down and say, okay, it happens all the time. They'll say, okay, let me calm down. I realize I'm, getting this way, and I'm going to try to calm down. And if you stay calm and level-headed, then a lot of times they will too. So the third thing that we want to do when it comes to debating and look at is making accusations and assumptions. Okay. It is very common that we think we know and understand what the issues are, how things got the way they are. And typically we don't know the whole story. So we make assumptions that this was the situation. We make assumptions about people's intentions. We make assumptions about how we think they're going to react or what we think they're going to do. We make a lot of assumptions because, a lot of times we think we know people very well, and sometimes we do. Sometimes we are right about our assumptions. But when we're not, and we make different accusations, that causes people to get defensive and raise barriers. And that's not our intention. We're trying to lower the barriers and so we can communicate. So when we come at people making accusations and making assumptions about what they're going to do, I know you're going to go off and do this. I know you're going to do that. I know this is going to happen, or I know you're going to come at me this way. And people don't respond to that. It's not well received. So we have to get away from making accusations, making assumptions. Ask people, what were your thoughts when this was going on? What were you thinking when you were talking to me this way, or when you were saying this when you were talking about this issue? Or sometimes people do things we don't, and we look at the thing that they do and get offended by it or get upset about it because we don't know what their intentions were when they were doing it. And sometimes when we understand that they had intentions behind what they were doing, or they had thoughts about, maybe they had made their own assumptions about, it just snowballed into something bigger than what it should have been. So we have to work to make sure that we're getting the whole story, try to get the backstory behind a situation before you just go off into getting upset with the person and going off on them and accusing them and making assumptions about things. Get the whole story so that we can make decisions based on full knowledge. Okay. Any questions about what I'm talking about thus far? If anyone has any questions, just type it in the chat and we can talk about it. A fourth thing I want to discuss is not speaking the entire truth. Okay, when we're debating about an issue, we do this a lot. We will come up with a surface level issue to debate over when really the root of the problem is something else. So we want to make sure that when we're debating with someone that we are being upfront and forthcoming about what it is that we're really upset about. So maybe we'll start a fight or start a debate over the phone, right? You feel like something's going on with their phone that you don't like, or always dinging, going off, or whatever the situation. Maybe it's an issue with the phone, or maybe I don't know. Maybe something else will come. But so we start an issue about the phone, but the root of the issue is that we are struggling with our trust. with this person. Okay. And that's what I mean when we need to be, tell the whole truth and not half truths. Okay. Or maybe we're fussing or upset about the time that they're spending at work or away with their friends, or time with their family. The real issue is that we are missing time. We want to be able to spend more time with them, or we want to be included in the time that they're spending with their friends or with their family. So that's what I mean. When we start an argument, or when we start a debate about something, when we approach our loved ones about issue, make sure you've gone through in your mind yourself what is you're fully upset about. Okay. So we can start an argument over, them working too much, but really the issue is that maybe we need more help with some of the responsibilities that we have. And because they're working so much, we don't have help with the responsibilities around the house, or, whatever it is that we're upset about. So be forthcoming, tell the whole truth about what it is that you're upset about, so that when you start the discussion, we know fully what we're dealing with, because it doesn't do any good to start a argument over one particular thing, and then maybe you come to some resolution of that, but that's not the root of the issue, and so they end up doing something else that causes you to still have those trust issues, or still have those struggles with taking on too much of the responsibilities of what you all have going on. Okay, does that make sense? So you want to make sure that when we are debating, that we tell the whole truth of what it is we're struggling with, what it is we're dealing with, what it is we're angry about, what it is we're upset over, what it is we're stressed about. Tell the whole truth about it. Don't just bring up that surface level issue, and get to the root of the problem. And then the last thing that we want to do, make sure, is that I have a question here. When you are always the calm one, you may feel taken advantage of. Yeah, that's true, Verns. You can feel taken advantage of, but because people take for granted that you're always going to be calm, or that you're going to react in a certain way, or be a certain way, and that's fine. A lot of people know that, when they approach me, that I'm not going to be the one that, is going to go into some hollering and screaming match. But that just still doesn't mean that I'm not going to stand firm on what it is that I'm feeling, what it is that I'm upset about, what I need to express, or what it is that I would like to see happen when it comes to the issue that I'm talking about. So as long as you don't give in or compromise to the point where you become bitter, where you become upset, or where you feel like you're not being heard or understood, then people will respect you. It's okay that you don't act like them, or respond like them, or argue like them, or debate like them. It's perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean that you want to get to a place where you give in, or you compromise, or you sort of bow down to whatever it is that they want. Okay. You still want to make sure that you stand firm on what resolution it is that you're trying to get to. Let's see. Telling it like it is. Yes. So I saw something over here where it says tell it like it is. Okay. Hello. Oh, telling it like it is. That's your name. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome to class. I like that name. I thought you were just making a statement there. So welcome in. Welcome in. So yes, we want to make sure that we tell the whole truth. And then the last thing that I want to bring up here is laying blame when it comes to debating. It is so tempting to not accept our responsibility in whatever the issue is that we're debating about. So we spend the whole time laying blame on the other person as to why we're struggling with this issue, why we have this problem, or why we're not getting along, or why we're not communicating well. It's always because of something that the other person is doing. All right, here's another statement. I have difficulties with sticking to the subject. That's my problem. I'm easily distracted from making my point. Okay. So with that, when you know that you have something that you need to talk about, you might want to jot down, you can put it in your hand if you need to, if you want to put it on a little sticky, have a little thought process in your mind. Okay, I need to talk to this person about this issue, and I want to make sure I get through these 3 points across, and maybe, put those 3 points on a piece of paper, jot it down in your hand if you need to, or if you think you can remember it, then go ahead and that's fine. Try to stick to those points. I know it's difficult. I don't know how to, if you find yourself veering off, into the weeds when it comes to a particular topic, try to will yourself back in, because a lot of times you can feel it happening. And when you do that, just say, you know what, I'm going to stop here because I want to make sure I get back to what it is that I really want to express. Just stop it right in the middle of what it is. Just don't even go there. And say, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to reel it back in, just like you would do with a fishing pole, and get back on track. And try not to let it just continue on into something else, because when we do that, it can take us off into another area. And that's how the enemy keeps us distracted. When the enemy is keeping us distracted, and I'll say this all the time, when we can learn to recognize when the enemy is working in our lives, we can combat the things that he's trying to do. So when you recognize him coming in your thoughts and trying to take the conversation into another place that you don't want it to go, stop it in its tracks. Just say, you know what, let's stop right here, because this is not where I wanted to go. This is not what I want to talk about. So let's get back to this. Okay, just stop it right in its tracks and get back on track. Let's see. Okay, everyone just still greeting each other. So yeah, like I said, we want to get back to get away from laying blame with the person. That's the last one. We want to accept responsibility for our role in it. In Romans 14:12, it talks about we will all have to give an account for ourselves to God. We will all have to give an account for ourselves to God. So we have to realize that we play a part in whatever issue we're having. Whatever issue we're having, we play a part. And we have to be willing to accept our role in the part that we play and say, I realize this is an issue, and this is the mistake that I've made. I know that I need to work on this, or I know that I shouldn't have done that, or I know I'm part of the problem as to why this is happening, because I'm enabling the situation to happen, or I'm not saying anything about it. I'm not speaking up about it. And so you think it's okay. Whatever it is, we have to be willing to accept our role and not lay blame on the other person, or just stop them from doing this, wanting them to just say, stop doing this. That it's your fault that we're having this problem. If you would just quit doing this, if you would just stop doing that, then this wouldn't be an issue. When they may feel the exact same way, they may have the exact same argument coming back at us. And so we have to stop and say, okay, this is where I see I'm playing a part in the problem. Can you tell me where you see you're playing a part in the problem, and try to come to some resolution? Let's talk about what we're doing wrong and stop pointing the finger at what the other person is doing wrong. And then when we start with that, now we're both taking ownership of the problem. And then we realize now both people are willing to work at, okay, well, we know we're both part of it. So let's go ahead and try to work through it. Because when we just attack a person, come at a person and say, it's your situation, you're the one that's causing this is your issue, they immediately become defensive. They immediately want to start an argument and defend themselves and say why they're not, or why they did. And that's not what we want. We're not trying to get into a fight or argument. We're trying to talk through what it is that we're dealing with and try to come to some resolution or compromise about it. Okay. Good morning, Triple C and Joe. How are you doing? Good to see you. Good morning. Good morning. And so, yeah, the main thing that we want to keep first and foremost in our mind is that we are here, we're in a debate that we are trying to find compromise. We're trying to get to a place of compromise. We're trying to get to a place where we can have clear resolution. And we're trying to get to a space where we can understand. And sometimes when we're debating, if we can't get to those things, sometimes we just have to agree to disagree. We're not always going to see eye to eye with the person, and we have to be okay with that. Sometimes we work so hard to try to win people over to our side with a particular situation that we're not willing to accept that they just feel a different way about it, and or they just from a different perspective. Though they may understand how we see it and they may empathize with how we see it, they still may not agree with it. And we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay that we're just never going to see eye to eye on this particular situation, and figure out how you can live with it or compromise with it. Maybe it'll have to be a topic that you can no longer discuss together, or something that you'll no longer be able to do together because you can't see eye to eye with it. So sometimes we just have to agree to disagree on particular situations. And of course, always, if things get to a point or get to a place where we can't come to some resolution and we feel like we need to bring in a friend who can give us some suggestions or give us some ideas, someone that you all trust, a counselor, a coach, a pastor, a good friend, whoever it is. Sometimes we need a third perspective to come in and say, hey, have y'all thought about this? Have you tried this? Whatever the situation is, it just depends. I don't know. But let that always be an option. If it feels like it's something that you need to come to some sort of resolution on and you can't because you don't know what to do about it. You don't know what your options are because maybe it's something you've never experienced before or been through before. Be willing to bring in a third party if you have to try to come to some resolution. All right. So that is, let's see, what time is it? It's 5:31. So that is all I have for class this morning. Tomorrow is the letter E. We're on the letter E. It's our last day of class for the week. We will be talking about emotions. Okay. So we'll be discussing emotions tomorrow. I know I had done a lesson on this, but there's some other things that we can talk about when it comes to remote emotions. So we'll be talking about those things tomorrow. I hope you all enjoyed class today. I hope you got something valuable out of it, some ideas, some thoughts, some encouragement to take with you, and to get to a place where when you get into a debate that we're being mindful, that we're being conscious, that we're being intentional, that we're being respectful, giving people the opportunity to be heard. We're expressing ourselves. We're not laying blame. We're not, telling half truths. We're trying to come to a space of compromise. Remember your intentions. Remember why it was that we're trying to stay with this person. We're trying to stay in good relations with this person. And when we keep that first and foremost in our minds, then it helps us to stay focused in our communication. Okay. Don't let the enemy take us to a point where we forget that we actually love this person or care about this person. We want to work with this person. So help to try to keep that first and foremost in our minds when it comes to a debate, and that this person may love or care about us as well. And they're not trying to, cause problems with us. So keep that in your minds. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and say a quick prayer. Thank you, Mama Joan. You'll make it to class on time tomorrow. No problem. Triple C. I understand 5 a.m. is early, and I don't know what time it is where you are, maybe 6 o'clock, and that still may be early. So I definitely understand. No problem. And said, Mama Joan said, thank you, Ruth. You always give information and use good information and useful advice. Thank you so much, Mama Joan. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here, each and every person in the chat, those who are watching behind the curtains, and those who'll be watching the replay. Thank you all. I'm going to say a quick prayer and then we'll head on out, and I'll see you all tomorrow. At 5:30, I have a preview coming out this morning, so don't miss today's lesson that we'll be talking about this Saturday night from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. If you're not connected to me, subscribe, hit the like button, and join the family. All right. Father, we just come thanking you for this day. We thank you for waking us up this morning, opening our minds, opening our hearts, preparing us to be able to receive this message. Lord, we don't want to be in a space of debating. We don't want to be in a space where we're constantly fighting, giving the enemy room to come in and wreak havoc in our lives. Help us to be when it comes to debating. Help us to be upfront about the issues. Help us to be willing to compromise. Help us to not lie or tell half truths. Help us to not lay blame. Lord, help us to accept our responsibility and our role in the issues that are causing the problem. Lord, we want to be peacemakers. You call us to be peacemakers. So help us to keep that first and foremost in our minds when we're dealing with people in our relationships, that we in peace, that we come in humbleness, and help us to not see them as weak, Lord, but to see us as strong, because it takes strength, Father, to be a peacemaker and not a person who causes this discord and dishonor. We want to respect others the way you respect others. We want to be able to forgive others the way you forgive us. We are undeserving of your love, and yet you give it to us each and every day. And help us to give love to others the same way. Father, we love you. I just touch each and every person in this chat, those who were able to be here and for class this morning, for those who'll be watching the replay, for those who will be coming in the future. Think I just thank you. We love you. And these things I ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right. You all have a beautiful day. Did anyone experience any buffering this through the class? Can you let me know if anyone experienced any buffering? For those of you who are still here. I hope my Wi-Fi extender is working. So that's the only reason I'm asking. I don't know. No one's responding. So I guess there was no buffering. I didn't get anyone saying that there was. All right. Well, you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you all tomorrow morning. Everything was okay. Okay. Thank you, Mama Joan. I appreciate it. All right. Y'all take care and check out today's lesson. Don't miss today's lesson. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Okay. Bye-bye.